I'd like to welcome everybody out to the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. This is the Water Quality Management Committee meeting. It is July 26th. It is 9 a.m. I'm Jonathan Moore. I'm the chair of this committee. And just so those who are new, this council is made up of water and wastewater providers in 3 different counties: Park County, Teller County, and El Paso County. Any wastewater specific projects in any of these 3 counties is heard by this committee and other committees as well. This is a regular meeting. Number 1 on the agenda is public comment. If you have comments related to any of the site applications on the agenda, which is the Grandview Reserve Metro District Lift Station or the Broadmoor Seven Falls Wastewater Holding Tanks, please hold your comments until we get to those items. We will have the applicant speak first, followed by comments from the committee as well as anybody in attendance. Then we'll have the applicant again address any comments that they have. So number 1 on the agenda, is there, oh, hi, Ann. We have determined that those are in attendance as well as online that we have a quorum. Jared has confirmed that, so we are going to proceed. So any public comments regarding anything that is not on the agenda today? And we ask that you hold your public comments to 3 minutes.
Dana, I see your hand is raised. Is that for this public comment period? I saw you had it raised right and you jumped in.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Hello? Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't hearing the audio, so I'm sorry. Do I take it off? Yeah.
We can lower it on our end.
Okay, thank
I just wanted
you.
to make sure. Yep.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we didn't receive any advance requests for public comment, and we didn't receive any submitted public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will go on to item number 2, site applications. 2A is the Grandview Reserve Metro District Lift Station. Is Mark here with us?
Yes.
Okay, Mark, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I'm Mark Bowley with HR Green. I'm presenting on the site application for the Grandview Reserve Metro District Lift Station. If you could go to page 3. There, that vicinity map. If you could zoom in a little bit, that'll help show where this project is. Grandview Reserve Metropolitan District is in the yellow color on the east side of the map there. This is out in the Falcon area. The kind of pink color is Meridian Ranch Metropolitan District. And just south of there, the light blue that doesn't show too well on the screen is the Woodman Hills Metropolitan District. So that should give a sense of where this project is. The lift station that's proposed is intended to serve the Grandview Reserve Metropolitan District, but also some other areas. If you could go to page 62, please.
Something bad happened.
I just do my internet, so just.
Okay.
I'd like to remind everybody who's online, if you could mute your mics. Until you have a comment, we can hear various people. Tom, is it Eisenman? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Sorry.
Thank you.
So this exhibit shows the proposed service area. Grandview is at the top, Waterbury is an adjacent development, and then there's a few other parcels that are contemplated to be served by this lift station. The applicant, Grandview, does not control any of the land outside of the Grandview Reserve Metropolitan District. But Woodman Hills, who's going to own and operate the lift station, wanted it to be a regional facility, and is anticipating development in this area. So along those lines, Grandview and DR Horton have a joint agreement with Woodman Hills Metropolitan District for wastewater treatment. DR Horton is the developer and Grandview Reserve is the Metropolitan District. So they've signed an agreement for wastewater treatment, and as part of that agreement, Woodman has agreed to own and operate the lift station once Grandview and DR Horton design and construct it. If you go, I'm sorry, but if you can go back to that third page that has the vicinity map. Down, it doesn't show well on this screen, but down in the southeast, there's a call out for the lift station location. It's at the corner of Curtis and Judge Orr Road. The Grandview Reserve Metropolitan District is under contract to purchase a 5-acre site there for the proposed lift station. And the proposed lift station will be sized to serve approximately 5,000 single-family equivalents. It's actually 5,900 if you go to, let's see, that's page 5 as the service area projections. So the Grandview parcel itself could have up to 3,500 SFE. It's unlikely that it'll get there, but we're sizing the lift station for kind of the highest possible amount of development. And then the other parcels that are shown on that service area map are listed the projected densities. Again, since the district and the developer do not control those areas, those are just projections that we're trying to anticipate what kind of development might occur out there based on existing development in the Falcon area. If you go down to the second table on that page, that shows our projected hydraulic and organic loading. We have 3 different phases that we contemplated for this lift station. The first phase is 119 units, and that corresponds to the first filing that DR Horton has proposed in Grandview. The second phase is 900 SFE, and that is the current capacity that Woodman Hills has dedicated to Grandview Reserve in their wastewater treatment facility. As part of their agreement with Grandview and DR Horton, Woodman has committed to expanding their wastewater treatment facility in the future as needed. It's important to note that this site application, we are seeking a permit approval for 900 SFE and a corresponding 0.15 MGD flow. When necessary, we'll be seeking to amend the site app for the full build out flows to the lift station of 5,900 units and 1.02 MGD. But given the existing capacity in the wastewater treatment plant and that we're going to phase the pump installation, we're currently only seeking permitting for 900 units. And then further to the right on that table, it shows the projected peak hour flow into the lift station of 430, and then also includes the pounds per day of BOD, which is relevant for the treatment plant capacity. You could move on to the next page. We have table 3 shows the projected loading of the Woodman Hills wastewater treatment facility. And as you can see, our second phase, 0.15 MGD that we're seeking permitting for, keeps us well below the existing capacity, but that 1.02 MGD puts us at, almost 150% of the existing plant capacity. So that just shows the need for an expansion before full build out occurs out here. Then moving down, if you could go to the next page, table 4 shows the different hydraulic pumping conditions for the proposed lift station. It's important to note that we are proposing 2 force mains from this lift station to the wastewater treatment facility, one 8-inch and one 14-inch. The reason there's 2 is to better manage our low end flows and have better turnover in the force main, so we're not having the wastewater sit too long before it gets to the treatment facility at early phases of development. So you can see condition A is with 1 pump running and just utilizing the 8-inch force main. The pumping rate would be 440 GPM to get to a velocity of 3 feet per second, which is an adequate velocity for the force main to operate at. The far right side of the table just deals with the suction side of the pumps and verifying that the pump is capable of it. And as you recall, the 0.15 MGD condition with 900 units being served correspond to a 430 gallon per minute loading of the lift station. So our condition A for pumping will cover us through the first 2 phases of the proposed development. Then condition B and full build out are, we're not seeking those in this particular site application. We come back to amend it for those, but just to explain what our plan is for full build out. When the flow into the lift station exceeds 440 GPM, it's anticipated that they would switch over and utilize just the 14-inch force main with 2 pumps running at 750 gallons per minute. And then in order to satisfy the full build out condition, we'd have 2 pumps running utilizing both the 8-inch and 14-inch force main. And if anyone's interested, we have pump curves in the appendices that I'd be happy to go over to show the operating points for the proposed pumps. If we move on from there to the bottom of page 6, we discuss emergency storage. Woodman Hills has required 8 hours of emergency storage at average daily flow. The next table, table 5 at the top of page 7, shows the required volume of emergency storage to meet those conditions. So if you can scroll down to the top of the next page, in this, for this initial phase of construction of the lift station, we would be providing a minimum of 51,600 gallons of emergency storage to satisfy the requirement up to 900 units. But then as you can see at full build out, there's a significant amount of emergency storage that will be required. Fortunately, we have a 5-acre site, so we have plenty of room to fit that emergency storage in. Again, as discussed, Woodman, as part of the agreement, has committed to owning and operating the lift station once it's constructed. Woodman has an existing operations staff to run their lift stations and wastewater treatment facility, and they are very well qualified to operate this lift station. For emergency operation, I've already discussed, the emergency storage that will be provided. In addition to that, we'll have dual force mains. Obviously, neither force main can convey the full build-out flows individually, but if there was to be a force main failure, they could at least pump partial flows through one while setting up bypass pumping or trucking to handle the remainder of the flows while fixing the other force main. In addition to that, we'll have a backup generator as required by the state. And we'll have a SCADA system to communicate alarms and operating conditions to the Woodman Hills staff. And then finally, given the kind of the high head nature of this lift station, because the static head is 275 feet. So given that, Woodman required that we provide 2 standby pumps. So for the first phase, we'll be providing 2 pumps, 1 duty and 1 standby. But once 2 pumps are running, we'll have 4 pumps installed. So they'll have 2 duty and 2 standby pumps, which exceeds the state's requirements for pumping redundancy. So that's the bulk of what I plan to present. But like I said, there's a lot more information in the appendices that I'm happy to go through if that would be helpful for those in attendance.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any comments from the committee on this application?
I have just one, Jonathan. This is
Yes.
Jesse at Woodmore Water. So, Mark, I know you touched upon the velocity in those pipelines, and I thought I had read in the report that you guys developed that that was a negotiated velocity between you and Woodman Hills Metro, which quite honestly seemed odd to me that you'd be negotiating over a velocity, but you can touch on that if you like. However, with particulates and pumping raw sewage, boy, I just don't know that 3 feet a second is really the appropriate velocity in that. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have particulates drop out of suspension in those pipelines until the interior of the pipeline fills up such that the restriction is something less than the inside diameter of the pipeline, which creates the velocity to probably something over 4. So I'm just curious why the 3.5 feet a second limitation?
Yeah, thank you for asking. If you can go back to page 5, table 4 displays the velocity. I believe CDPHE requires a minimum of 2 feet per second in force mains, and that's generally accepted to keep solids in suspension. And then 3.5 is what we began our design basing it around as a flow rate to resuspend solids that settle out when the pumps are shut down. The negotiations or discussions with Woodman were based around the TDHs that resulted with those velocities. We can go to the pump curves, and the pumps are capable of achieving 3.5 feet per second. But Woodman, and in discussion with us, it wasn't so much a negotiation that we were arguing over it. It was more a discussion with the operators of where they wanted the pumps to run long term for both, considering the power draw from these pumps. And so 3 feet per second was kind of selected as the long-term operating condition, knowing that the pumps are capable of achieving 3.5 feet per second at all of those conditions. Should that be necessary, for the operators to run it at that velocity once or twice a day to ensure that they're picking up any solids that settle out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question.
Thank you, Jesse. Anybody else on the committee that would like to ask anything?
Did this application go through the SARC?
Yes.
Oh, it did. Good. And,
I think I was absent that day.
and did the SARC recommend action?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pull up the SARC minutes for you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that the amount of redundancy is really impressive. I think probably more than any lift station we've seen in the last 6 months. My question was, are these pumps planned to be on VFDs and kind of be a bit like a steady flow scenario, or is it going to be turning on and off as the tank fills up?
So they will be on VFDs, and I guess that's important for the answer to Jesse's question as well, is they'll be able to, adjust the speed that these pumps run at. We haven't determined the exact operating conditions, but it likely will be that the flow rate of the pump will vary based on the level of the wet well to try to get some longer run times out of the pumps and minimize our starts and stops.
Okay. And then how long is the pipe connecting to the nearest gravity?
How long is the force main?
Yeah.
So it's force main all the way to the treatment plant, and I believe it's 3.1 miles.
Okay.
My question, will you be building both force mains at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Both force mains will be part of the phase 1 construction. The only items that won't be with phase 1 are the final 2 pumps and the full emergency storage. Those will be the items that we're phasing. Everything else should be installed day 1.
Any other questions from the committee members?
This is Mark with Monument Sanitation. Are they going to have a standby pump in case the initial one fails, or at least a pump on the shelf ready to go in its place?
So at the initial condition, condition A, when only 1 pump is needed, we'll have 1 duty pump and 1 standby installed. So we'll have complete redundancy of that. And then once we reach condition B, where 2 pumps are required, 2 additional pumps would be installed so that we have 2 duty pumps and 2 standby. So at any time, we'll have 100% redundancy of our pumping requirements.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other questions from committee? I don't see anybody's hand raised. You, Jared?
I don't.
Okay, any public comments on this? And ma'am in the back, there's plenty of chairs. You can sit at the table here.
Sorry, I've got a broken leg. When I sit down, it really
Okay, I just want to make sure you're offered.
fine. Thank you.
Okay, any public comment on this?
This is Brandon with security.
Oh, yes, Brandon.
I think I'm public on this committee, I'm not sure. Are there any elevation issues with the force main that require air relief valves?
There are. We are currently going through a transient analysis to inform the location and sizing. We discussed that in the site app that we're going to do a transient analysis. That is in progress and we're almost done with it. And I can say from the preliminary results, we're anticipating needing both combination valves and a surge tank at the lift station. Yeah, it's a long pipeline and it's high head. So at a pump shutdown condition, the transients are not great. So we will have quite a bit of mitigation for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from anybody, public or committee members?
Jonathan?
Yes, sir.
Has there been any assessment made that Woodman Hills has site available for the build out condition for the treatment facility?
Yeah, we sit on a 21-acre site. We got plenty of room. We still got 3 lagoons that empty it out. We could 10 times expand. Okay. We can expand bigger than we have water for, so.
And for the record, could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Wally Eads. I'm the wastewater director for Woodman Hills Metropolitan District.
Thank you, Wally. Just for the record. Roger, is that good? Anything else? Okay, hearing nothing else, what are the wishes of the committee? Do I have a motion from the committee members?
Mark, Monument Sanitation, I will make a motion to approve this project and move it along to the next item.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. All in favor? Oh, go ahead.
Just for clarification, the SARC did recommend approval?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I haven't had time to open the computer and find
Okay,
the notes.
I just want to make sure before we vote.
It should, if we're here, it should be, yeah. That's true.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Roy. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And you can be excused if you'd like.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next item on our site application is item 2B, the Broadmoor Seven Falls wastewater holding tanks. Joe, are you here or online?
I'm here.
Yeah, we are.
So my first question is, do I need to go through the presentation again or just kind of update you on where we're at?
I'd do a brief overview and then update us where we're at. How about that? Just in case somebody wasn't here,
Okay.
if that's okay with the committee.
Yeah. All right. So, again, this is Seven Falls, the proposed treatment vault system for the 1858 restaurant. The site, and if you go down to the next slide, you can see the restaurant there that we are working with. There was previously a system installed there under the local jurisdiction of the county. The next slide kind of shows the layout of it. After this system, the original system was under 2,000 gallons a day. That's why it was local jurisdiction. After they operated, this was pre-COVID, they when we started this all, they found that there, and you can just kind of scroll through number 4, kind of shows the field was installed with a sand filter with a membrane to prevent flow from going to the creek. The next slide shows the chambers that were installed. It had a grease trap and it had a microbiota pre-treatment prior to going to the field up by the restaurant, and grease traps up there. The next slide again shows the tanks that were installed. You can keep going down to the next one, and it just so. And then the next slide kind of shows the aerial view there. Go next after that. Sorry, keep going one more. There, down Seven Falls at kind of the lower, there's a pinpoint there, and then if you go to the middle where the road goes east-west, there's the vault. That's where the existing system is and where the proposed vaults will be next to the existing restroom there. And then the next slide kind of shows the city service area, and way down at the kind of the south or the lower left part of the thing, you'll see the Seven Falls restaurant identified there. If you scroll down, it's outside of the city service area. Keep going down there a little more. Right there, you see the Seven Falls restaurant kind of identified. It's outside of the current city service area. And then the next slide kind of shows the closest tie-in points that we have, which are off of West Point and Penrose Boulevard. It's over a mile or about a mile away. And eventually the plan would be to tie in when we get to that point. The next slide, just an aerial of where the tanks will be installed. Next to that's the restroom facility there. It will also be tied into the vault system. And as you move down, you've got a few pictures of the area. And then go to the next one, running through these since we have seen these. And then like slide 17 shows flow volumes. The majority of the flows are actually below the 2,000 gallons a day required that would allow this to stay under local. It's the peak flows that push us to the state level. And so though that's what with the volumes they have during the peak time is what pushed us to apply for the state. There's several years of flow values there that the Broadmoor has been monitoring the flows at the restaurant. So what we have proposed, because of the flows and the tight canyon and the lack of ability to tie into the city at this point, is to have a vault system. And the vault system that we are proposing, if you go down to page 23, is very large. It's 25,000 gallons, I think, total, which will allow for storage during peak flows. The system is totally pumped to the city of Colorado Springs at this point. That's the plan. And with this volume, we don't have to run a lot of trucks during peak times because of the storage capacity that we have. The plan would be probably, at least initially with the Broadmoor discussions, a truck a day. They're usually scheduled for 6 o'clock in the morning to pump to keep up with the flows, but we do have adequate capacity for the busy days and to store it, so we're not running trucks in the middle of the day. That's kind of the presentation in summary quickly. Since we have you guys saw this previously and approved it at the CAC, they voted us down, I think, by 1. We were moving forward. We addressed the issues of a site application being completed. That has been completed. CSU, as a matter of fact, has already signed off on it. The Broadmoor, their signatures on it now. And just for this afternoon's meeting, personnel of the Broadmoor will be present. Because that was one of the things that came up was how is the Broadmoor treating this and how are they going to deal with it? But we did provide a letter from them prior to the directors meeting that they had provided us that, their whole intention is to follow the regulations once this is installed and to operate it as required by their permit. And so then we have kind of verified with the Broadmoor the truck schedule of the 6 a.m. to pickups and delivery from the site. to minimize that. You know, the traffic in the area has seemed to have been a concern. They don't have cars come in and park there like they used to. They have a staging area where they bus them in. And also people from the Broadmoor are bused in. They're not, the traffic. Way back in the day, I remember going in there and parking inside there, and it was really very crowded and a lot of traffic. Now it is really limited by their buses and their I think they use the area over, I think it's called Strawberry Fields or whatever the stable area is, but they also bus people directly from the Broadmoor in to the site. So the traffic is reduced with that. And again, the truck traffic from the pumping is anticipated to be one a day in the morning early. And that's kind of what we have addressed so far.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Is there any comments from the committee at this time?
Mark has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
You're,
Oh. Any other committee members have any questions?
Joe, I was just curious, do you have any idea, like on their peak days, how many buses go in and out of there?
I don't, the guys this afternoon will, it's from the Broadmoor, it's primarily during meal times, and they have a package for them where they, you know, the people purchase, where they have a meal and then go look at the falls. From the staging area, I don't have an actual number on that. I'm sure the Broadmoor does, and they can provide that this afternoon. But it really varies with obviously the tourist flow.
yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Tag us back. But
Sorry, I was on mute before and I thought I was off of mute. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the first question is 6 a.m. pickup of loading. So more than likely you're going to be driving back through the neighborhood, or I'm going to guess around 6:30-ish, 6:45-ish. How does this affect during school season, picking up kids or affecting school traffic?
I mean, it would possibly be at the same time. I don't know if there's heavy school traffic in the area, but we haven't done a traffic study. We didn't think that was necessary with the one truck a day. It could be during that time, and that time can be adjusted.
Okay. And has, for lack of better terms, a cost analysis been done what the cost of this project is going to cost versus just putting in a pipeline and or lift station to CSU and getting pumped right to their system there?
The Broadmoor did do some analysis back, and the cost of the line, I don't have the exact numbers. I was told it was somewhere of around 1.2 to 1.5 million. And initially with the 1858 restaurant and the usage, they wanted to operate it and see the economics of putting that in and funding that down the road.
Okay.
You good, Mark?
Yeah.
Remind us from the vault to the city's system, how far was that again?
It's a little over a mile.
Okay, roughly a mile. Okay. Any other comments or questions from committee members?
I guess I'm just struggling to understand what our task is today. We already approved it based on the committee's expertise, I guess, in wastewater collection and treatment. And I don't know if the PPACG gave any instructions on what we're supposed to look at again.
No, that's a great question. My understanding is there's been some updates from public input and we're here to hear public input, I guess is the reasoning. One comment I do want to make, the pump trucks, and this is for the public understanding as well, these are enclosed containers.
Correct.
They're not open dump trucks. They're enclosed. We have two of them. We pump out, they're enclosed. I wouldn't say if there was an accident, they would spill, but they are enclosed. I mean, pretty heavy duty stuff. I just want to make that comment to confirm that. Is anybody from CSU here?
They've signed off on the application at this point.
Okay, and as far,
Oh, yeah, this is Annie Burleman with Colorado Springs Utilities. If you have any questions, our Colorado Springs Utilities isn't have too much input on the holding tanks. Everybody thought it looked good and that kind of stuff, but we will potentially be one of the people receiving the waste through our liquid haulers program. And our only requirement with that is that we do have a permitting process of whatever liquid hauler company is chosen, that they are permitted through us.
thank you, Annie.
Annie, do you know how many companies or permits CSU currently has for this type of thing?
I don't know how many liquid waste haulers we have permitted. I know we have 35 different entities that deposit waste with us, mostly like RV places and things like that. And there's a number, I do know that there's a number of liquid waste haulers, and if you all needed like a list of companies that already have a permit, I'm sure we could get that to you.
General, does that answer your question?
I think it does.
Generally,
I mean, this isn't the first time CSU's done this.
right.
Yeah, this is like, we have a whole liquid waste haulers program, so that won't be an issue. And just for the record, Colorado Springs Utilities isn't the only one that will accept liquid waste haulers. There are a few other entities out there that will do that. I believe we're just the closest to this project.
And as a committee, Roy kind of hit on this for wastewater treatment. As far as the truck route and so forth, that really isn't our expertise. To me, that's more of a zoning question. And I think that falls into the city zoning if they're running through city property. I just want to make sure the public understands that, yes, we consider routes, but that's not our expertise moving forward. So if I don't have any other comments from the committee, I'm going to turn it over to public comment, and please limit comments to 3 minutes. Jared will help us out on that. Is there any public comments on this?
Actually, Jonathan, this
Yes.
is Mark.
Oh,
I do
please,
have
Mark, go
one
ahead.
more question. One more question. Do we have an engineer's estimate on what this project is expected to cost, and then we'll say ongoing O&M of it?
The full cost is being worked on now. The O&M was Broadmoor is working on that with their new haulers, and I don't have the exact numbers right now. The anticipation was that the numbers would be in the 25 to 30,000 a month range for pumping.
Okay, so we don't have an engineer's estimate on putting these tanks in, getting that all done is going to cost at this point.
Not final yet, no. They're working on that.
So how do they know that this project is financially beneficial versus going to CSU with a pipeline?
Well, the rough estimates originally for the install were around 150,000 versus the 1.5 million or 1.2 to 1.5 million. And at the time when this all came up, this was a few years ago, and then it got kind of put on the back burner with COVID, was their desire to hopefully fund this project down the road and to utilize this for the initial operations.
Okay, well, everybody in the business knows that prices from 2-3 years ago are definitely not prices in today's dollars, so.
Yeah, and that's why they are working with the installer is already on board and he's revising that, and I'm anticipate we'll have that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, nothing else, Jonathan?
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'm gonna turn it back over to the public. Sir, you had your hand raised?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate being here. Before I tell you where I stand, let me tell you where I sit. I sit at 1851 West Cheyenne Road. My name is Jim Bensberg, Bensberg. And so Cheyenne Creek runs right through my backyard as part of my property and shared with the city park now called Stratton Park. So I come here today to learn more about this technical process. And Joe, I appreciate your remarks, especially because you represent NTech, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you'll see this afternoon. The idea is new to me now that there is a cost estimate to tie into the wastewater system at Evans Avenue. Is that where the logical?
Yeah, it's very rough so far.
So, okay, well, that'd be the logical place right there at Evans Avenue Bridge and where Cheyenne Boulevard splits off into North and South Cheyenne canyons. So I appreciate that clarification because really, as I was quoted recently in paper, I was caught flat-footed. My family's been in this area since 1940, and I've lived in my house since 1955. And so it's a great concern to me how the current system works. I didn't realize that there was, for lack of a better term, a leach field after a pre-treatment process. And I guess my ongoing concern would be how much of that would end up in Cheyenne Creek through the leaching process. And I'm sure the state monitors that. Is that correct?
Yeah, the original system, it had a sand filter, it was pre-treated, had a sand filter, had a barrier to prevent going towards the creek. Because of the flows now and the high flows and the discharge that would be there with the amount of flows they have, we think there would be an issue. That's why we're going to the vault system. There will be no discharge on this site.
Okay.
So with this new site, there's no potential for it to go with the creek at all.
That's good to know. Appreciate all of the information that's been provided here today. I know it previously passed and been remanded back by the board of directors. I attended that meeting. That was my first effort at trying to understand the scope of this process and what's involved. So I guess I will step aside and let others speak if they wish, but appreciate being able to reach out to you with further questions. I don't suppose we could trade business cards here, could we? Okay. Well, any questions for me? Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Members.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can just, for logistical purposes, for in person, we can do them first. For anyone online, if you have public comment, if you can go ahead and raise your hand now, we can go ahead and get the queue going online.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
just wanted
Thank
to
you, Jared.
get that so we can make it efficient.
Okay. Anybody else that's here before we get to the online folks?
One question though.
Yes, please.
What's the SARC? I didn't see it on the list that approved.
So the SARC usually happens 2 to 4 weeks before on average.
What does SARC stand for?
Site Application Review Committee.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
That's right.
PPACG website.
Yep,
Thank you for that clarification.
you bet.
That prior to going to the PPACG board,
Yeah, it's prior to this board, actually.
this board recommends to SARC. and
No, the SARC recommends to this board, sorry.
SARC, so that meeting's already taken place,
It has, yes.
and is that available? That meeting?
I think they're
Minutes were
posted.
provided previously, and that was done on, I think, June 5th.
So I can pull those up.
We
I can
don't
pull up the
typically
meeting-
post a video.
The meeting link, yeah.
I don't, because we'd have to just coordinate to get the video.
When did that happen?
I think it was June 5th.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, SARC is a subset of this committee that dives in a lot more deeply on things like wastewater treatment plants. We're kind of a little more broad.
Yeah, they're kind of technical advisors
Yeah.
to us.
No, that's a great question. Anybody else here? Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I'll come up here too. Follow Jim's precedent. Good morning, all. My name is Kent Obie, and I am a Cheyenne Canyon resident. Don't live right on the creek like Jim, but within a couple blocks of it. But my background here since retiring and coming back to Colorado Springs is I was on the Parks Board, chair of the Parks Board, and one of my big concerns is South Cheyenne Creek. And as you may know, and others may know, it runs or doesn't run. It runs dry much of the year. And my big concern, and I must say, the impact on the creek, and I'm glad to hear that there aren't going to be leach pads and there's no chance of effluent in the creek, because when I hike that area right below the Seven Falls Gate, that creek is full of kids wading and splashing, if there's water to splash in. But my other concern is Seven Falls more and more is sucking South Cheyenne Creek dry. It's a waterfall in principle, but much of the year it's a recirculating waterfall. There's water pumped from the bottom back up, so it still looks good for the tourists. And you certainly lose a certain amount of creek water there through evaporation. I'm also concerned that with the increased drawing on the creek through the wells and stuff, that again, there's just going to be less and less water going down the creek. And again, I would think that would be within the purview of this body, that there should be some water in South Cheyenne Creek all year, that it can't just be a recirculating resource or one that's pumped dry to run the toilets at the 1858 restaurant. So that is my main concern. I would second the concern of many of my neighbors that there's a whole lot of traffic already on Cheyenne Boulevard because of the tourist attraction. And secondly, that one of the things that bothered many of us, and this is a point that probably needs to be made more this afternoon, there was no public process on this. I think the Broadmoor posted a notice about 2 or 3 years ago in front of the Seven Falls Gate. It was up for about 2 weeks. That's been the only public notice until
That was
this.
part of the county process. And then it was up for longer than that, but yeah.
Okay, well,
That
that's
was required for the county.
But I think that my basic point is that this caught a lot of us by surprise. I think but anyway, those are the points I'd like to make.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to respond to the purview of this committee, unfortunately, freshwater is all water rights at the state level, and basic water rights laws, if a creek has 2 cubic feet per second of flow and you have a water right for 2 cubic feet per second, you can take all of it.
And they do.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, that's all the way to the, Kansas border and the Arkansas River. It's all these tributaries. And we have no way to impact water rights. We review water or wastewater applications.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I don't know that this is in your purview, but it's my understanding that at the state level, water rights progression can be set aside if water is being taken from a recreation area. This is something I learned like when the creek first went dry for extended periods of time, which was in 2017, 2018. And I don't know, is anyone familiar with that provision?
There's a whole bunch of different state laws for augmentation. But that's when the attorneys get involved, and I want to stay out of that, but that's a good question. Yeah. And to your point, and it is, and that's why I love that there's a citizens advisory, and that's perfect to talk with Seven Falls, get their input and see what you can do about that.
We will.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ken. Anybody else here in the audience? Yes, ma'am, please.
I have a bunch of questions. Is that okay?
Just
I'll
read
say
your
who I
name.
am. My name is Donna, D-O-N-N-A. The last name is Strong, S-T-R-O-M. Thank you. You bet. And I lived in the canyon for 53 and a half years. I am vitally concerned with the condition of Cheyenne Canyon, the ambiance, the living conditions, traffic, Seven Falls, all of it, as I watched the progression over the years. So my first question, and I don't know, a lot of these, I'm not sure you can answer, but it seems better to have you first. How did the Broadmoor know 3 years ago that they had exceeded that leach field capacity?
We were monitoring flows.
So it went, what, monthly?
They were yeah, well, daily and monthly, we were
But it was
monitoring.
self-monitored, it was the Broadmoor that was.
Yeah, they had a
doing it,
meter there,
right?
yes. They were
Under
providing,
WTS, that's.
yeah, they were
correct.
providing that information to us.
So they were exceeding the previously agreed upon flows, right?
They did, they were operating, and at first they were not, and then they were, yes, that's when. we
Okay.
decided, yes.
The second thing is my understanding there'll be 8 tanks in total. Do BOD fives play into this at all, or are they gonna be emptied before the 5-day period?
It will depend on flows, we weren't really looking at BOD levels because it's all being pumped and taken, it's not.
So that will be regularly monitored if the contents of the tank have been sitting there for 5 days, right?
I'm not sure how we will monitor that at this point, but my thought is that because we're pumping and we're continuously pumping, that the amount of storage time will be below that.
Okay, I understood that the state health department has signed off on this.
Not yet, not yet. This
Not
is the
yet?
process.
Okay.
They have the application, they don't have the final application. We need to get these sign offs done first before we go to them. They have a copy of what the plan is.
Gotcha. What about El Paso County Health? Since it's in-
They, now that it's gone to the state level, they will not be able, Kat at the El Paso County has looked at it, she knows what we're doing.
Right.
But they do not, now that it's jumped to the state level, they will not have an actual say in what happens at the state level now.
But it hasn't been approved yet at the state level.
Not yet.
Okay.
And El Paso County Health has a member of this on this committee.
That's CDPHE.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So my next question is from the overall tone of what you guys are saying, this sounds like a temporary solution. Unless or until we can tie into CSU, is that
That
correct?
is fine, yes.
Is there any way to get that in writing with a time frame?
I don't know if we can get a time frame. Haven't really addressed putting it in writing, but that has been the discussion with the Broadmoor all along. Is their intent is to tie it.
At some vague point in the future, that's. the
Yeah, we don't have
problem.
an
I would
actual
like to-
They will be
I
at
think
the,
we'd all like to have.
Yeah.
We're suffering from an information drought out here.
they
We
will,
just don't, the reason we're here, sir, that you asked, what's the point today? We, as Jim said, we were blindsided by this. We had it not been for one email. I don't think any of us would be sitting here now knowing that, and there's just not enough information. And I submit that for you to vote when we're saying we don't have enough information is perhaps you do and you should share it with us. But without enough information, it's hard to see how either you or the CAC can make an informed decision. Then, if later you're gonna tie into CSU, why not now? That's just a question I'm putting on the table. And the other thing is I'm very familiar with the interior of Seven Falls. Those restrooms sit at the bottom of one of the steepest, biggest rocks in the entire canyon. It's huge. When I went on the FEMA website to check out that Zone X minimum risk of flood danger, that kind of perplexed me because I was here for the 2013 and the 2015 floods and they were back to back. So my question is this, if you put tanks, are they above ground?
no, they're below ground.
They're below ground. Can that system withstand a flood of the magnitude of that 2013 flood?
Yeah.
Given that they sit right at the bottom of just a sheer, I don't know, I'm not good at distances. It's a huge, very steep rock.
Yeah.
So water cascading down there, can that system withstand that?
Oh, yes. I mean, that kind of water flow is not gonna affect these tanks.
Okay. Good enough. I think that's, sorry, a lot of questions, but the problem is that how at the very least for us to understand what's happening.
You bet.
I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Donna. Based on one of Donna's questions, Joe, would it be possible for you and the Broadmoor to come up with a date to reevaluate the connection to the city?
Yeah, and just first, Eric, the engineer facilities manager, probably will be at the afternoon meeting. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And at that point, you will have a date.
I will talk to him about it. I don't know if we'll have a date, but we'll talk about it and have, he can.
And what I'm getting at is this 2 years, 5 years, 10 years where you reevaluate it, where we come back and we can hear this and the citizens can, that's what I'm kind of looking for in my.
And I don't want to speak for Joe, but what I heard him say earlier is they want to operate the restaurant for a while to see if the revenues from the restaurant are going to support.
Right.
And that makes sense to me. So from that perspective, I understand why it's difficult to make that commitment right now.
Right, and I'm looking for a date that we can come back and say, hey, it's been 3 years and this is where we're at, but it's still not there. You know, that's all. Because if I'm the citizens, I just want that date to revisit it.
Right.
But I agree 100% with you, Ray. Okay, thank you. Anybody else here that would like to speak?
Well, I would just like to say that we've learned over the past few years since the Broadmoor took the Seven Falls at a very reasonable price from Margaret Hill to run. They changed our neighborhood. I live at 1619 Cheyenne Boulevard and have been there about 47 years. And we've learned that they really are not very trustworthy with the things that they tell us. First it was, we're just going to run some shuttles because of the senior open was up. We were all understanding that they had too much traffic and there were no parking. So then they used our street for going plus Norris Penrose to stage people. And when it first started out, it was, not slower than it is now, but I sat out there and took counts of the shuttles. Now, some years later, this has grown to about every minute and a half. A shuttle comes by or a trailway sized bus on Cheyenne Boulevard. And the traffic backs up. And if we have any street work being done, they never reverse and go, up through the hotel. It's always on Cheyenne Boulevard. So we bear the brunt. This year, they're not supposed to go back the same way. They have to go on Mesa and through the Broadmoor and then down Cresta. We just don't like any more traffic than we already have. And they always, promise us that they're doing what they've always done, but they sneak back down. We've learned that they're not very trustworthy about what they say if they think we're not looking or watching for them. It's just become a problem. And then this year they extended the hours and the days so they could get more tourist traffic. So not only do we have the trailway sized buses, we have the shuttles, they're going till 8 and 9 o'clock at night. And so we really don't want their, the stuff they pump from there. I don't care if it's 6 in the morning. We've had enough of them using our street and the weight of those trucks that they already.
Thank you. Jared, who do you have online?
Looks like we just have one person online, Dana Duggan. If there's anyone else online who would like to provide public comment, please use the raise hand function now. But Dana, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. So I'm a little late to the party. So I was, by the way, I live in the Broadmoor area at the top of Sanford Road. next to Strawberry Fields to give you a sense. I founded Save Cheyenne, Cheyenne Central, West Side Watch, a lot of volunteering. And I heard about this, but my mother broke her femur and I was too busy to really engage. And then House Representative Mark Schneider called me also asking about this as well last week. And then I spoke with Donna Strom last night. So here I sit. So I'm a little late. I just have a couple quick questions. One, the former County Commissioner Binsberg noted that there is a connection point for wastewater and I guess utilities in general at Evans Avenue. Is that true?
See here, there's two possibilities. One is at, one is West Point and Penrose. The other is at Cheyenne and Evans. Yes, I'm not sure that one is as feasible as the other one on Penrose. The full study of where to tie in has not been completed.
So the reason I'm asking is when I heard Penrose and West Point, intuitively that sounded awfully far. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a closer tie-in. And if Commissioner Binsberg is accurate, then that would probably reduce those costs significantly. The distance between those points would be pretty dramatic, I would think.
They're similar. There's not there is a difference between them, but when we originally talked with the city, we thought the Penrose would be the one would go to, but again, this full study hasn't been done, and that would be done prior to tying in.
Yeah, so I guess, it seems logical to me that if you're going to, because the other part that I find puzzling is that the Broadmoor is willing to spend $510,000 potentially a year on this. And I, by the way, am on septic, so I sadly know a little bit about these systems. I have a septic system, but we have a dry well. Is that equivalent to what you're calling a vault there?
No, a dry well would be in the ground with discharge. This has no discharge.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because our dry well does have discharge. There's the effluent, I think is what they call it, discharges. So your vaults have absolutely no discharge.
That is correct.
Okay, so I guess the curious part is if they've already documented that they intend to tie in, it's $500,000 more a year to do the system they're proposing. It may be much cheaper, or approximately the same cost to tie in at a closer location. And then this ties into Mr. Obie's comments, which are, we actually did talk to the state hydrologist about South Cheyenne Creek. We talked to the person who monitors the water, who gets the reports from the Broadmoor from Seven Falls on usage, and have long been of the opinion that well number 3 is alluvial. It's pulling from the creek as opposed to an aquifer underground. And so this, tying in now seems like it would solve all of these issues, and be better for everyone. And then lastly, to the public comment, I think a lot of people don't know about this, and I share Ms. Raymond's concerns about the trucks, but the people in the Broadmoor are also going to have, we don't want a lot of trucks in our neighborhood either, right? So I don't know. It just seems like maybe that there should be a little more time to vet the cost differential of a tie-in location that's closer, as well as, getting the word out to the public so you can have more citizen input.
Thank you, Dana.
You bet.
Okay. Jared, anybody else online?
I'll make this the last call. I don't see any other hands raised. And seeing none, I think we'll go to the online portion.
Okay, thank you. What are the committee's wishes on this?
I guess my thought is, most or all of the issues that have been raised by non-committee members are things that we can't do anything about. So our focus is very narrow. Our responsibility is very limited. And as is our power. So, as was stated earlier, we really can't have an impact on water rights. Those are other people that deal with those issues. Traffic, likewise, that's other people that deal with, and I'm not saying those aren't legitimate issues.
right.
They're just not under our purview. So I haven't, as a committee member, I haven't seen anything that compels me to want to change my vote that I made a month ago. And so, as far as I'm concerned, there's no additional action that I would propose that this committee make.
Jonathan, I agree with Roy.
Thank you, Jesse.
I concur with Roy or whatever. A lot of the concerns that have been brought up is outside the technical aspects of what we are to do here or whatever, even though we all feel for their concerns, it doesn't affect this committee. We look at the technical aspects of the project.
Any other committee comments? Yeah, I love the fact that you guys are here. This is why you should be here. This is why we have public meetings. And I think, both county and city should be contacted by your advisory group on this issue, because these are more zoning traffic issues, big, broad. We're looking at the treatment that the engineer provided us. We do look at other things, but really we're looking at that specific treatment and the water quality from that. And I don't see anything that makes me want to change my vote for the treatment process of it. And I'm going to look to Ann and Jared. Do we need to make a motion?
So I was going to recommend, since the board of directors did ask water quality and community advisory to reconsider it, and the application does have additional documents from the last time it was reviewed, my recommendation would, yes, a motion and a second and a vote.
Okay.
To send us back.
Thank you. Do I have a motion from the committee on this?
Jonathan, I'd move that we reaffirm our previous decision to move this forward.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none. Thank you.
It's Jonathan, who made the motion?
Jesse Schaefer made the motion. You guys can stick around or but thank you again for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for hearing.
You bet. Yep. Okay, we are now going on the agenda item number 3, water quality management member updates, if any. Yes, sir.
Cherokee's new reverse osmosis wastewater plant is fully online, and we had a grand opening last week. And if anyone wants to come and tour it, just contact me. I'd be happy to show you guys around.
Thank you.
Whose wastewater plant was that?
Cherokee Metro District.
Thank you.
Any other committee member updates? Hearing none. And do you have any? I know you're writing, that's okay.
I've got 2 conversations I'm trying to track. No, this will go before the CAC at 3 o'clock, and then we'll see what we do after that. I don't know if it's gonna go to the board again or not. I don't know. And that's the problem. The technical elements have been met.
Right.
the board of directors utilizes the CAC to kind of filter through all these other issues and then make a decision. So we'll see. I'll keep the water quality team posted on all that.
Thank you.
So along that line, all of these committees, all the way up the line are just recommending approval to CDPHE, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So even if PPAC doesn't move it forward, CDPHE probably still needs to make a decision.
They do. The catch is that as part of the 208 planning process, there is a signature block requirement on the 22.9 application for our executive director, Andy Gunning, to sign it. So if the board doesn't recommend that it gets signed, he won't sign it.
Then where does it go?
I don't.
Does it go to, I thought about that. I was like, where does it go?
Yeah.
Does it go to the county or the city?
It's been to the county. It doesn't need to go to the city. It's not in the city limits.
No, I know. I'm just thinking with the traffic, but it could just go back to the county. Is that where, I guess they would recommend, your board would recommend where to go after that.
The board, I don't know.
All right.
Has there ever been a site app that failed the two-way process?
No.
Yeah.
Not for technical reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is Mark.
Yeah.
Can you send out, I'm guessing those are, the CAC meeting is public, meeting or whatever. Can you send out an invitation to that or how we can log into that to?
Yeah, I'll forward that to the water quality group. I just got that invitation myself late last week. I haven't been on that list, so I will forward that to you so you have it. And so those meetings are the same day as the water quality. I didn't do that. That's not my fault. Ours is at 9, theirs is at 3, and it's in the downstairs main conference room if you happen to come in person.
Thank you. Any other comments from committee members or the public on this? Hearing none, I want to thank Ann and Jared for facilitating, for setting it up, all the meetings. Thank you guys as always. Do I have no other comments? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I think you can just adjourn, Jonathan. I don't know that we
Oh,
need a
okay, we
motion.
don't need to vote on that. Okay, the meeting's adjourned.